Good afternoon, everyone. Chris Berryman here, coalition builder and founder of Bringing Humanity Together. Welcome to our Bringing Humanity Together live stream. This is one of the three open forums under the Bringing Humanity Together umbrella where people can discuss topics related to the workplace and humanity in the workplace in a very positive and constructive way. We want to know what the issues that are out there are facing people today because it is our goal and our mission to both work with employers and employees to bring humanity back into the workforce. And as always, we'll be going live every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, all at 3 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time, except for Wednesdays, which is Conversation for Humanity. And we have a 15-minute meet and greet. So we actually only have that available for Wednesday at this point. So feel free to invite your friends, your coworkers, your fur babies. We would like to have them all a part of this conversation. And just to let you guys know, we can only have up to 6 people at a time. So if you want to join us on the live link that we'll put in the YouTube chat and also on the LinkedIn Live, please let us know where you're actually watching from live, and we'll send that link out to you very shortly. And we'll filter people in and out and everything like that. Feel free to comment, ask questions, everything, and we would like to have that great and engaging conversation with you. And also let us know where you're watching from too as well, whether to be on the live or also on the replay, and use the hashtag replay when you actually are watching it on the replay with your comments or concerns or whatever. Alrighty. So hello, Sandy and Carla. How are you doing today on Terrific Tuesday?
We're good.
Hey, doing good, Chris. How about you?
I am doing great, doing great. So what's on tap for us today, Miss Sandy?
Well, I guess we're going to talk about the support aspect of a good culture. And that usually refers to training. And organizations that have good training budgets and provide all kinds of training for their people feel that they're valued because the organization is making an investment in them. Plus, if they bring in good facilitators, the training can be fun. So it's just a matter of, what we're really looking at. And I think that organizations that do provide this, and it's at no cost to the employee, the organization has a training budget. And so they pick up the cost of the facilitator that they hire to provide the training. And it's an opportunity for employees to enhance the skills that they already have and learn new ones, which may give them a rise in pay or a promotion down the road because now they have different skills that may offer them a managerial position or some other kind of supervisory position. So again, it's sort of a big thank you, and it's an acknowledgement, and it values the employees so that they feel good. And when employees, their self-esteem gets boosted and they feel more confident, then their work is going to be improved as well. So it's a win-win for everybody. And it's just a matter of looking at companies that have this. And many large organizations have training budgets. Like I know all the big law firms in downtown Vancouver have training budgets, all of them. And most of the companies that I work with, because they're medium to large size companies, they pretty much all have training budgets. Small business doesn't usually have a training budget. I occasionally will get a small coaching contract from a small business. But the medium to large size businesses, most of them have training budgets. And that means that there's opportunity for the employees to learn some new stuff. And, again, it can be fun, it can be interesting, and it can certainly enhance their ability to do their job well. And so it's kind of a big thank you from the company to their employees. So it's just a matter of, what are they doing? And hi, Lisa.
Hi.
And when you have a training budget, then you have the opportunity to bring in a facilitator to provide your employees with whatever you think is going to be of most benefit to them. And, I've told you before, I call HR people firefighters because they could do the training themselves. But as Carla and I know, and I'm sure Lisa knows this too, putting together a training program is a lot of work. And HR people don't have time because they have so many other things on their plate. They just don't have the time to put together training, which is why in general, they hire outside facilitators. And that's the reason why most large, medium, and large size companies have training budgets, because they know that their HR people do not have the time to do it. But HR usually knows what's necessary. They know who needs help. They know what help is necessary. And that's why usually my contact person is HR, because they usually tell me what they want to have brought to their employees. And so, we get very specific. We have a very in-depth conversation on what they feel is going to be of most benefit to their people. And that's why I customize all the sessions to meet those specific needs. And it's just a matter of, you have to have that discussion with HR or whoever, we're dealing with in the company. It's usually HR. And then we can customize the sessions to suit those specific needs so that we are meeting them, and then they'll be happy. And again, if you provide employees with solutions to things they're struggling with, and they see that the things we've provided them with actually work and help them to get better outcomes from things that they haven't had good outcomes from before, they are going to be far more likely to start using it. And then the company's happy because they get a good ROI. Just a matter of figuring out, and that's why you have to have that discussion interview before we put together a program to make sure that we are targeting the specific needs of the organization, because every person is different and every organization is different. And training companies and trainers that just do generic workshops, they're not that good, because they don't address the specific needs of an organization, which is the reason why, unless I'm dealing with different groups in the same organization, I never do the same workshop twice, because it's not suitable. And companies that do, I told you I worked for a company that did that. And I would get the feedback saying, this wasn't exactly what we expected. That's kind of what I would get from them. And I always felt bad. But they didn't customize the sessions. They had a workshop on a topic, and that was it. And they would send it to me with the PowerPoint and the facilitator guide and the participant handout, whatever. But if it wasn't specifically what the company was looking for, they weren't that happy. And so, I would tell them, well, you should, contact LifeWorks and tell them what you want. I knew darn well they wouldn't customize it. So I also gave them my card. And if they won't help you, contact me and I'll come sit down with you and we'll put together something that's going to help you.
It's just sure it's really difficult as a facilitator too. If you're presenting information, just like you might as well just be reading a script and knowing that this is not going to be effective. And if you're going to create something, if you're going to take people away from their work and sacrifice that productivity for that time period, that week or days or whatever you're going to do, you got to make it effective.
Exactly. Well, that's why I always say to HR, I'm very sorry I have to put you to work. And they kind of go, what? And say, well, if I'm going to be teaching your employees some new approaches and new strategies and some new skills to overcome the things that they're struggling with, I need to know what they're struggling with. So you need to send me the typical scenarios that they have had trouble with. And what I will do is I will put those typical scenarios into PowerPoint slides, but I will also hard copy them. And after I have taught them some new approaches and some new strategies, I will then have them number off in groups, and each group will get a hard copy scenario that they're familiar with, but now they've got some new approaches to deal with these things. And so they'll see why they're learning these new skills and why it would be a good idea to start using it. I mean, I can make up stuff, but if it doesn't resonate and it doesn't make sense, then it's not as effective as what they know. And I told you before that at the end of sessions, people have come up to me, how did you know that stuff? And I just tell them, well, your manager told me. Oh,
Well, people relate to stories and they remember those kind of things.
Of course. And that's why it's very important. Well, that's why it's very important that we get the specifics and that we get some help from, usually HR, so that we can insert things that they're familiar with so that they can see why they're learning these new things and why they should start using it. I mean, I've gone back to some of ththese law firms that I worked with years ago, and some of the staff comes up to me, I'm still using that communication stuff that you taught, like whatever. And I feel so good about it, that they actually learned it and they've used it and it's been helpful and they're still using it. And that means that it was the right stuff. I mean, that's, essentially what it means. And that's what we want to be doing. We want to help the employees and help the employers so that things are better in the workforce. And the only way to do that is to find out what would help them. So if we can find that out, then we can certainly put together a workshop that contains strategies and skills and approaches that are going to help them with things that they've been struggling with. And that's really what it's all about. And that's what the support piece of a culture is. If you have an organization that wants to support their people, helping them with training to overcome things that they've been struggling with or that they would like to learn, because sometimes people would like to learn something new because they want to try something different. And that also keeps them engaged and challenged. So there's nothing wrong with giving them some new skills so they can expand their duties. And that's another aspect of the training piece. So it's very important to do this because, as we've already said, happy employees, and I know Brian doesn't think that it's, the duty of the organization to keep their people happy, but the truth is, if you have happy employees, they are more productive, they are more efficient, and they get sick less often. So, you have less stress. So it's a matter of what are you doing? And also people who are happy are not likely to leave. And you won't have to worry about customer service because if they're very proud of where they're working, they want their customers to be happy and keep coming back. So they'll be good with the customers as well. So it's just a matter of, it's a win-win all the way around if people are happy. And the opposite is true. So, it's just a matter of what are you doing? And if you're not providing a work environment, a culture that is supportive and respectful and acknowledging, so that people are appreciated for what they do, so they feel valued, what the heck are you doing? I mean, what is the point? An organization needs to have those aspects in its culture. And if it does, it's going to be very successful because it's a win-win for everybody. And, when people feel valued and appreciated, they're going to work harder. I mean, it just is. If somebody comes in early or stays late because they're working on a project and they want to get this done and you thank them, and you say, oh, Lisa, thank you so much for staying late last night. That made a really big difference when we came in this morning. We saw all the stuff that you did. It really pushed the project forward. Thank you so much. Well, they're going to do it again because it got noticed and it was appreciated. But, if they do stuff like that and nobody says anything, they won't do it again. They won't bother because they figure, well, nobody noticed anyway, so who cares? Why should I bother? So it's just a matter of how are you treating your people? And again, this is not rocket science and it's not that difficult, but it's just a matter of stepping back and paying attention and again, listening, because the people that are, in the front working, they're the ones that sometimes come up with ideas to make things more efficient or to do things better because they're actually doing it. And if you don't listen, you will miss opportunities. So it's very important to collaboratively discuss things, because when things are imposed on people without any input, it's not very comfortable. But if you have a discussion and they have input, they're far more likely to accept it and use it than if it's just imposed on them. So collaborative approaches to change is really good. And it really helps the changes to occur and for people to accept them. So it's just a matter of how are you dealing with your people? Are you giving them credit? Are you listening to them? Are you supporting them? I mean, what are you doing? And the places where, I told you, even in the dental office, not all dentists do what my dad did, but the dentist that I worked for, apart from the last guy that was just a pain in the ass, but the other dentists that I worked for, they all paid for the continuing ed because we have to do it in order to maintain our licenses. But they could write it off, so they would pay, and that meant that we could do our continuing ed, and they would pay for it. And who wins? The office wins because the patients win. So it's a matter of, what are you doing? And my dad felt very strongly about this. I told you that at least once a year he would take the whole office to a continuing education course that was out of town. And he would foot the whole bill, the transportation, the hotel, the meals, the whole 9 yards. He would pay for the whole thing. And it was fun for us because, we got to go on a little trip together and, we had fun. So it was hugely advantageous. And as I said to you, when you came into our office, it was a good feeling. Most dental offices, I told you, people go to the dentist, they go, yeah, they hurt us and we pay, but because we had fun, it helped to relax the patients, because a lot of them are very nervous and anxious and uptight and stressed out. But if you come in and everybody's laughing and we're relaxed, and then it helps the patients to feel the same way. So it's the same thing in any business. You come in and if people are angry, it's palpable in the air, and it's not a comfortable place to be. But if people get along and they enjoy working with each other and they feel good about the organization they're working for, it's a whole different atmosphere. And people will feel good when they come in. They won't want to leave. They'll want to come back. So it's just a matter of, what are you doing? And that's why the culture is so important, and why the support aspect of it is very important. Because when people feel appreciated and valued, then they're not going anywhere. And as we all know, turnover is very expensive. And if people are sick a lot, it also, because it puts a lot of extra pressure on the ones that aren't away, because they've got to pick up the slack from the person who isn't there. So, again, you've got happy employees. They're not going anywhere. They're not going to be sick very often. They're going to do a better job. It's a win-win for everybody. It's a win-win for the employees, but it's a huge win-win for the company. And again, it's not that hard. I mean, it's really not that hard. But as I also mentioned once before, just because somebody has an idea for a business, and even if it's a good idea, doesn't mean they're going to be a good boss. Doesn't mean they know how to hire people. It doesn't mean they know how to deal with people. And if they don't, and they do things in a poor manner, it's why so many small businesses fail, because they never get off the ground. So it's just a matter of, I've also mentioned this. Some people are just naturally good at this. I mean, they just are. It's their personality type, and they just are naturally good at it. But others who aren't need to learn how. And if they realize that they're struggling and they realize that they need some help, they can get some coaching. I mean, it's not that hard. And if they want to learn, then they can. It's just a matter of somebody offering them the skills that will help them to be better with their people, and so on and so forth, and then their business won't fail. It's just a matter of understanding some of these things, and a lot of people don't get it, which is really a shame, because again, this is not rocket science. This is just, it's the humanity piece, Chris. I mean, that's really what it is. It's being human and getting along with people in a humane way. And again, it's not that hard, but it's something that you need to be aware of so that you do the right things. And, being a good boss is not necessarily that hard, but you have to know what to do to keep your people happy, and then your business will be successful. I mean, it's just, if your people are working hard and enjoying their work and enjoying the people they work with, they're not going anywhere, and your business will do well. It is how it is. I mean, my dad had a very successful dental practice. Do you know that he had many dentists who were his patients? That's how good a dentist he was. He had a lot of dentists who were his patients. They came to him because they knew he was a fabulous dentist. So, that speaks volumes for the kind of work that my dad did, and the kind of work that he expected from all of us. It was a high standard, and we rose to the occasion because my dad did it. And we all, went along with it, but we also did a lot of continuing ed to keep up and learn new things and so on and so forth. And what we would do if somebody went to a course and nobody else went, so at the next staff meeting, you'd share what you learned. And you'd bring your handouts if people wanted to copy them and take them home and have a look at them. So, there were a lot of advantages to how he dealt with things. And even after my dad died, my brother and my dad's partner continued the practice the way my dad had set it up. And I mean, we had fun and we liked the people that we worked with. And, that made it nice. I mean, I looked forward to going to work. We had a good time. And because we had established respect and rapport with the patients, a lot of them would move forward with the treatment protocols that were suggested to them, because we explained it to them in a way that they could understand it so they could make an informed decision. And also, because everybody was friendly and supportive and nice in the office, they felt comfortable. So, it's just a matter of what are you doing? And again, it's not that hard. I don't know if I told you guys this, but when I started working with my dad, the first book he gave me was How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. That was the first book he ever gave me. He says, you need to read this.
That's still a good book.
Yeah, it is still a good book. But it's just funny. That was the first book he gave me to read. And because back then, communication wasn't part of the dental hygiene program, certainly not part of the dental program. It is now, but it wasn't then. And so he felt that, this was something I needed to read and learn. So I went, fine, I read it. It's kind of a cute book, actually, because they have different, you have your comfort cow and you have your, all these different cows that they call the people. But it's okay because it just sort of, gives it a different look. And you pay attention to what matters to people. And if you do, then you know how to approach them.
Mm-hmm.
You know what spin to put on what you're telling them, because otherwise you don't. And that's why listening is, in my view, it's the most important communication skill. The more you listen, the more you learn. And the more you learn, the more successful you're going to be with your colleagues and with your customers and clients, whatever it is, because we learn what matters to them. And if you find out what matters to them, then that's the spin you can put on things. I mean, I think I told you one of the things we had to grade the students on was their ability to give oral self-care instruction to their patients. And one day in the clinic, this girl had her dad in the chair, and I knew it was her dad because I already read his chart. And he had a heart condition, okay? And in your mouth, you have over 350 different organisms, and many of them aren't very nice. But of course, you're swallowing them all the time. So they go into your system and they look for a weak spot. So if your weak spot is your heart, they might, settle there and cause you trouble. So anyway, he wasn't paying attention to her. So I said to her, your dad's not paying attention. He sat up in the chair. He said, how did you know that? I said, because I've been married for 45 years and I know that look. It was just,
Please don't look.
you were just gone, Lisa. So I said to the girl, I said, Sarah, you need to tell your dad why it's important for him to brush and floss. He has a heart condition. And this, having an unhealthy mouth is dangerous to his heart. He needs to know that. So we started sitting up in the chair, how do you know that? I said, I read your chart. And I said, it is something that you need to pay attention to. So you better listen to your daughter. So she started over, and this time he paid attention. So it's just a matter of, you got to be watching people. And we talked about this before. There's nonverbal messaging that's coming at you. If you're not paying attention to it, you may not realize they didn't hear anything you said.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think making an investment in continuing education for your employees or quality training goes a long way to creating a quality company. I mean, look at McDonald's back in the 70s. Chris, when did you work at McDonald's?
I actually worked back in McDonald's back in 1989 to 91 when I got
You youngster.
I was working at Burger King.
1975, 76. And it was, you were taken into the break room and you literally watched, I guess they were taped. I don't remember how.
back then there were tapes, but they were actually videos.
I know they weren't DVDs or whatever, but of films or whatever of quality. I mean, you could only put so many things in the stack, and you could only fill the fries so full, and you only put 1 squirt of ketchup on, you only put 2 pickles, and you folded the bag just right. I mean, that was our continuing education way back then, okay? But that's what made McDonald's what it was back in the day. And that's what made that a quality company. Now they just got it up and hand it to you,
Isn't that interesting?
That same quality does not exist anymore. And in healthcare, I didn't care whether I worked in a recovery room, post-op, and we would do in-services and stuff. And that's how I learned how to run a laser machine in the OR. Because we did an in-service, and I said, hey, I want to do something different can you train me on how to use that laser? Because I saw a need that they needed one more person in the room to run the laser. And so I learned how to do that. You know, I learned how to scrub, I learned how to circulate, and it was all through continuing education.
It's the best way, Carla. I mean, there's just,
Yeah.
you know, it's the very best way.
And you never know if just doing continuing education, even if it's not in an area where your focus is for your job, maybe there's something else that maybe learning something else will lead you to another department and where you're working that might even be more interesting than what you're doing already. And it could give you
Well, that's why we also did a lot of cross training in the dental office.
Mm-hmm.
So even the receptionists, they knew how to develop films. We taught them how. Because if we were stuck and, you know, because that was back in the day before digital imagery.
Yeah.
You actually had film. So you had to put them through the fixer and then, I mean, through the developer and then through the fixer, and then you had to dry them, then you had to mount them, you know, but we taught the office staff how to do this as well. And, you know, scrubbing instruments and all and sterilizing and stuff, you have to know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And also we kept a list in the supply room of things that needed to be ordered, and there was somebody that was supposed to do it, but if she was busy, then, you know, if I had time, I'd call the dental supply companies. Who cares? I mean, you know, and also if I had time, I could go into the office and I could.
I'm a believer in cross training and in nursing. I'm trying to think what it was that they actually, I think they kind of did it state by state by state, that they actually mandated that people had to do continuing education. And it's sad, number one, that a lot of companies don't pay for it. They don't reimburse their nurses because that's what's going to have them keep their license. But also a lot of nurses, like in the United States, your license is good for 2 years. And so you may see some companies advertising for get your CEUs done like in November or December, because licensing comes up again in January. And so every year you see everybody doing this mad push to get all their continuing education unit credits done. And it's like, if you'd done it a little bit a year and made it pertinent to what you were already doing or extending yourself and learning something new, you wouldn't be in this mad crunch. It would be like studying for a test at the 11th hour, you know? And it's that mentality. I don't think that people necessarily like to do continuing education, but when you're in a field, when you're in a medical field, things are constantly changing, and you need to do that.
You got to keep up. I mean, you have to keep up, and you know, I mean, that's why I joined a study club, because we met once a month, and we did, you know, different kinds of things. But it was just, you know, it's a matter of keeping up. And what we had to do with our continuing ed, you had to register it with the college. So you had to send in, you know, a certification. It's got to be signed by the person who put it on. So, you know, you had to pick up your papers at the end. And it was just a matter of, it just became what you did. I mean, otherwise you were going to have to go back and take the exam over again.
Who wants to do that?
Nobody wants to do that. Yeah, that's for darn sure. So as long as you did, like we had to do 75 hours of continuing ed every year. Yeah, we had to do a lot, Carla.
In the HR field, we had to do 60, but it's every 2 years.
In nursing, it's like 30 hours.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, we had to do 75. It's a lot of hours. So, you know, it was a matter of getting it done. And again, you know, at the Pacific Dental Conference, which was 3 days, you could get a lot of continuing ed done at that. Because there were, you know, there were workshops all day long every day.
Yes.
But it's just a matter of, you know, the courses out at UBC were full days, and these courses are not cheap. You know, they're like hundreds of dollars. So for a lot of people, it was too expensive. And so if your boss is willing to pay because they can write it off, then you're laughing and it's no big deal. And so, you know, it was fine. I mean, a lot of them were interesting and they were fun. And I mean, I didn't mind going to continuing ed. And for certain things, I would, as I said, we would come back and we would share it with the rest of the office if it was something that was kind of relatable in terms of everybody could benefit from it. So it's just a matter of your attitude about it, I guess. And see, dentists had to do, I think, 100 hours. So, and the dental assistants and the dental receptionists also had to do some, but not a lot. But, they also like to go because the Pacific Dental Conference is huge. And it's one of the biggest dental conferences in North America. There are anywhere between 12 and 15,000 people that come to this. And it's not just people in the Vancouver area. There are literally people from all over North America who come to this conference. And there's speakers from all over North America, and even European speakers who come to this conference. It's quite amazing. I've done a lot of workshops at that conference. And it's at our huge convention center. And it's just, it's also a really good place to see your colleagues and meet new people and, whatever. It's a fun conference. And they have a really good lunch.
The food's good too. Yeah. It used to be that the pharmaceutical industry could do CEU credits and stuff and do dinners, and then they kind of did away with that. Made it really hard for them to. A lot of nurses would say, "Well, if I'm not getting a dinner out of it, I'm not going to do it." Or if I'm not going to dinner, but if I don't get CEUs, geez, why can't I get CEUs out of it?
Exactly. Still have to take continuing ed.
Yeah. So Lisa, what is your thoughts from the realm of human development, human investment? What have you seen when it comes to the added value component when it comes to supporting continuing education, especially in the workplace?
So that's interesting because most professions have the continuing education credit requirement. So if you want to stay certified, you have to get these credits. It's a requirement. And some companies pay for them because they understand the value. Other companies, like Sandy and Carla were saying, do not pay for them. But it is important. It's I think, a very key component in ensuring that your company has the tools, your employees have the tools that they need to be successful, which trickles down to help the company to be successful. In manufacturing, we didn't have certification requirements for production employees, but one of the companies that I worked for, we had a certification, quote unquote, a certification process that we put our assemblers or production employees through. And it really started from the very beginning in orientation when we onboarded them. They started in there and we spent a good day with them. HR did, covering the basic information such as HR policies and so forth. But then they would go out on the production floor and they would spend a couple of weeks learning the job itself. And they would go through, it was really more of a checklist, but each area, so there would be a station, and in each station, each area, there would be separate stations. And the operator or the production assembler would have to get trained up to a level 3 in all of those stations in each area that they maybe learned. And so, again, it took a couple of weeks, but it was a good way to assess their learning and how they could. So level 1 was brand new employee. They basically had a mentor, someone that worked with them. It was their first step in the training process. Level 2 was they run at some point, they could do a little bit on their own, but maybe they couldn't run at a certain rate that was needed for production flow properly. And then level 3, they could go on their own and they wouldn't need the mentor. And so this was a process that we put our employees through that helped us assess. It helped the team member know where they were at in their training as well. And so to me, it's a certification process, an internal certification process, if you will. And we did the same thing for team leaders and things like that. So team leaders obviously had a lot more involved, such as the soft skills that Sandy does a lot of training on. So we did a lot of soft skill training, but we had a separate training modules that we put our team leaders through. And so, again, it's a key component in ensuring that people have the tools that they need to be successful, which helps the company be successful. Without it, you're going to fail. You're not going to be able to meet your customers' needs, and you're going to fail. And people innately, I think, want to do a good job. So this helps them feel confident in their abilities, which in turn makes them feel good because they know that the company is investing the time in them to ensure that they're able to do a good job.
Exactly.
Right.
That's the support piece.
Yes, exactly. And it's a key component. It really is. Without it, your people don't know what they're doing, and they don't feel confident in what they're doing. Even if they do know, they don't feel as confident because they don't really know for sure, right? So it just
Exactly.
helps.
For sure.
Well, for me, when I was working in many different capacities as a trainer, like my first training job I ever had was at McDonald's. And the one thing I was taught as a trainer, you got to go through a train the trainer kind of class, in which I had to do. And I went very well with that, and it was lickety split for me. And then I was training people like right on right. So I was just like putting them out there. But what I did is I made it uniquely good for them because I said, hey, we have these standards and procedures, but you have to make it your own because the one person who knows better than anybody of how they work and how they do things is them and them alone. You can show them a process, you can show them a workflow, you can show them all that. That's great. But sometimes if you try to get it too robotic and too, I guess, mundane, they sometimes really don't catch on and everything. And that's why I've always taken the approach. I do it from a individual standpoint, not just a cookie cutter. This is what McDonald's need to say. This is what you have to do it. Put three pickles on a bun with mustard, ketchup, and that's it. And I'm like, no, there's more to it than that. I mean, literally, there was things I still remember from McDonald's today that I can go to them and check off on and say, hey, why is their drive-through time over 90 seconds? Why does it take them over 108 seconds to cook a quarter pounder, but yet only 33 for a hamburger? I still know all that. Why it's sticking in my head, I don't know. That's a great thing. But like I said, that's the one thing I've learned is I meet people where they are. Because see, if you meet them where they are, they can meet you at where you're at. Even not only from a training perspective, but also from a level perspective. Like with you, Lisa, you have the level ones, you have the level twos, you have the level threes. You have different ways to get to where you're needed to go. And if you can be
Exactly.
with them on that path, not only for them, which is the most important, but also as a trainer, not only do you learn from them on how they do things, you can say, hey, you're not just doing a shortcut here or a shortcut there. They're doing a shortcut in their mind. They might be doing the same exact process, they just have to do it in a different way. And that's one thing I've always embraced when it comes to training is I just don't want to be so rigid, but you have to go A, B, C, and that's the way it is. No.
Mhm.
If you,
Right.
get, if you get to that kind of conformity to such an extent, you lose out on a huge opportunity to connect with people. That's why I say I meet them where they're at. Now I don't expect them to come to me. I actually make it my choice and also my rule of thumb is saying, hey, I'm gonna go out to these people and I'm gonna meet them where they're at. And if they have questions, bring them on. I'll take them on. And if I don't have the answer to it, I know who does. Hey, Lisa, I have this assembler here. Has a issue here. Can you help me out with that? And by doing that, you keep everybody engaged with the whole flow and dynamic that is the training process or the continuing education process, whether it be in medical, whether it be in dentistry. It's like my wife in pharmacy. She literally, like you said, Carla, has to go through that mad rush at the end of the year. Oh, you got to go all do these CDLs. And like, ah! Well, she always keeps up to date with all that. She does. She doesn't have to be at the mad rush and say, "Oh, I got all my." Because see, Walmart, they actually literally have to do it in a structured setting. So if you had a module to do, it tells you you have to do X and X a module for pharmacy, and it tells you.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't do it, you don't go back to the pharmacy until you finish that module.
Yeah. Well,
Right.
years ago, I used to have an ACLS, advanced cardiopulmonary life support. It's like a advanced thing for CPR and algorithms for abnormal cardiac rhythm and things like that. And the same thing would happen. I was working in an OR, and everybody was doing like this mad dash trying to learn algorithms to sit and do this certification. And I'm like, why aren't you focusing on one algorithm a month for everybody to kind of have in the forefront and kind of work through it, understand it, and have it and know about it and be comfortable with it, rather than just cramming at the end of the year and stressing out about getting this recertification done when you could have really been highlighting an algorithm every month for the past year. And then when testing comes, you can go, I got it. I'm good.
Well, and when a company supports that for their employees, it's a lot easier to get those in and not have to cram them in. So when a company actually says, hey, I want you to take that time to be certified, to make sure that you don't lose your certification, it really shows the employee that you really care about me and will make the time to do that.
Well, as a professional, it shows that you care about your profession as well. That you shouldn't be cramming till the 11th hour to do it, whether it be continuing education or any type of recertification that's required for your job. Because things are always changing in healthcare. Things are always changing in any facility where you're manufacturing and producing things. Things are always changing, and there's always different ways of doing it and better ways of doing it. Why not learn it along the way?
We also used to, at our staff meetings, we had a staff meeting once a month, we sometimes would pretend that there was an emergency in the office. And so what do? You know, who phones 911? Who gets out the, the blood pressure thing, whatever it is. And it's a matter of, and if one person wasn't there who had a job to do, then, who would take over that position? So we had, we played around with it so that everybody knew that if so-and-so wasn't there, somebody else would do it, and so on and so forth. Because God forbid, if you have some kind of medical emergency in the dental office, you don't want the patient to die. So it's a matter of dealing with it appropriately. And also in dentistry, everybody had to know how to do CPR, and you have to upgrade that on a regular basis too. So sometimes we would just have a CPR specialist come right into the office and upgrade all of us at the same time. So, again, another thing that you have to do. And it's just a matter, again, of how are you supporting your employees? How are you making them feel comfortable so that they do feel, like you said, Lisa, confident that they know what they're doing? And it is important that you do feel confident that you know what you're doing. And again, because of new equipment, and especially now in the digital age, I mean, back in the day, as I said to you, we used to take films for x-rays. Not anymore. Now it's digital. And what's nice about it is, if you have to do a film over, you don't need to do all the, into the dark room and then whatever. You just take another film, it's so much easier. And we had to bring somebody in to show us how to use this digital equipment because we had to learn how to use it. And I thought it was cool. I mean, it was just so much easier than taking films, and it was easier for the patients too. So again, and plus we had everything on computers. I mean, we didn't use paper charts much anymore. Everything was in the computer. And so when I came in the morning, I'd see my day sheet and I'd go into everybody's chart and see what was going on so that I could help them decide if they were supposed to be moving forward with a specific treatment protocol and so on and so forth. I could answer questions, I could show them pictures, whatever they needed in order to make their informed decision. But I always read the charts. And again, it tells you about their medical history. It tells you, because we would make notes if they went on a vacation or if they got a dog or if their kid was getting married or, whatever. So when they came in, you say, Carla, how's your dog doing? And so the patient would go, boy, they actually paid attention to me, So
Right.
it really sets up rapport and respect. And when they know that you obviously care about them and listen to them, they're far more likely to do what you tell them to do because they know that you have their best interests at heart. So you'll be far more successful with them. But it's just a matter of you have to learn all those things and why they're important. And if you do, it's just like I told you about the couple of patients I had that were autistic. I just phoned the moms. What do I do here? What triggers does your kid have? How should we, because I know autistic kids don't like strangers. So, should we meet before he comes in so that I'm not a stranger to him? She thought that was a great idea. She just couldn't believe that I phoned up and asked. I said, well, I'm sorry. I like to have my patients comfortable, and I don't want your son to be uncomfortable from the first time he comes into the office. I want him to be comfortable because then we have a far better chance of dealing with him effectively. She said, oh, yeah, but no one's ever done this before. I said, okay, well, I'm not everyone. So it's just a matter of what are you doing to make the patients more comfortable? And so, we went out and had coffee and had a visit. And so when he came in, I wasn't a stranger. He actually came in and gave me a big smile and said hi. So, it's just a matter of what are you doing? It's not that, again, it's not that hard. It's really
Right.
not.
Showing you care really builds that trust with the other individual. And employers that invest in their employees, those employees are so loyal, so dedicated, and will work much harder for that employer.
That's right, Chris. That's perfect.
Teamwork equals dream work. I love it.
Well, it does. I mean, it's a matter of enjoying your job, enjoying the people that you work with, and enjoying your patients, your clients, your customers, whatever you want to call them. And the more you get to know them and the more you understand them, the better chance you have of being successful with them and really being able to help them. Because if you don't, you can't. Because why would they listen to you if they don't think you care? So
Well,
it's
and
a
it helps
matter of
the
showing them.
individual be successful too, because they feel they feel aligned and they feel important, and it feels more like family rather than a job or a company. It's just total alignment at that point, and I'm not sure I've ever experienced it totally, except for with you guys.
Well, I believe, if I'm correct, there was even a post on our LinkedIn business page about alignment.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Well, it's very important, Chris. It really is. And I think that, and it isn't just in healthcare, because if customers, if a customer comes into your place and, them, you say, hi, Carla, how are you doing? And how's Cosmo? Is he getting along better now that whatever? I mean, that says it speaks volumes to the customer because you've called them by their name and you remembered that, she had this dog that had a problem, whatever, it doesn't matter. But the point is you paid attention. I mean, I told you before we had computers, I had a Cardex and I had a card on every single patient. And after they left, I would make notes on their card. So when I would come in the morning, and I always came in early to get everything set up, but I would pull out the cards of the patients I was seeing that day to remind myself of the things that were going on in their lives so that when they came in, I could look like I really had paid attention the last time they were in. They don't need to know I cheated. And once we had the computerized system, there was a place in the computer where you could make those notes. So you could pull up the person's chart in the computer and you could read the notes. So you knew what treatment protocols had been discussed, or, again, if somebody was getting married or if they were going on a vacation or anything, everybody made those notes. We all did it. So that way, anybody who saw the patient would have the opportunity to look really smart. So it's just a matter of, and even when you went out to the waiting room to bring them in, so you say, "Hi, Lisa, how are you doing? Nice to see you. Come on in, we're ready for you." It's a whole different way of dealing with things. And again, the sweetest sound to anyone's ears is their own name. So especially when you address them by their own name, it's much better in terms of respect and rapport and comfort levels and so on and so forth. And again, it's not that hard to do. It's just a matter of preparing yourself. And I mean, it's just how you set things up. And as long as you set it up in a way that's going to be beneficial to everybody involved, we're good. I mean, some of the patients, I like this. This was cute. Some of the patients, who especially nervous ones, you want to do everything you possibly can to make them feel more comfortable and less stressed out, because stress is a huge issue in dentistry for a whole host of reasons. One, because you're dealing with stressed out people, and two, because we work in a very small, dark place and we have tight time constraints. Because, you only have so much time to treat a patient. And so, if people are late and different things that happen, it really puts you behind the 8 ball. So it's a matter of, figuring out how to do all these different things. And again, it's not rocket science, but we can talk about it, in the office. And a lot of times at our staff meetings, these were different things we talked about. And there are difficult people, nothing you can do about that. But if somebody had been successful with one of these people, then we would ask them what they did so that they could share it with us. So the next time we had to deal with them, we would have some insight on what made them easier to deal with. So, again, it's a team. And if you work together and support each other, then everybody does better. And if we all do better, everybody wins. So it's just a matter of how the business is set up and what the boss does to make people feel challenged and engaged and comfortable and pleased to be working in this place, wherever it is. It doesn't matter what the job is. It honestly doesn't matter. It's the same principle. How are people getting along with those? Because if you're working with a whole bunch of people that you hate, it's not very comfortable. It's not even fun. I mean, we had the staff that we had in my dad's office they were terrific. And we had a lot of fun. And as I said, we did things, from time to time, like we went whitewater rafting, we played baseball, and then we go out for dinner. And every year we had a big Christmas dinner and
team building.
Yeah, exactly, Lisa. And
right.
It's very important that people get along and like each other and look forward to seeing each other. And we were very supportive of each other. I mean, sometimes when I needed someone to help me do a perio charting, sometimes it was a dentist that didn't have anything to do at the moment, and he'd come and chart with me. And I mean, that's a real team. I mean, it really is. So it's just a matter of how does it play out? And again, it's not rocket science and it's not that hard, but it's something that you have to pay attention with. And, you've got to listen and you've got to help each other. And if people help one another, that's a real team. I mean, it really is. So it just depends on who's leading the team and how it gets set up. And again, you can talk the talk, but if you're not walking the walk, it doesn't help.
Right.
When I was learning how to give local anesthetic, I would ask the dentist if I could do the injections for them. So, they kind of look at me. I said, well, I need to practice. You're going to practice on my patient? Yes, I am.
Yeah, Dan, I'm working on the patients.
Just don't say, well, I can practice on them or I can practice on you.
Yeah, exactly, Carla.
Just don't say oops.
Oh, exactly. But the thing is, what we learned when we were giving injections was to do it slowly, because if you push really fast, it's uncomfortable. So, because I actually had one patient say to me when I was doing a lower block, and that's a lot of anesthetic. And when I was done, he looks at me and he goes, "How come that took so long?" I said, it took so long so it wouldn't hurt you.
They appreciate it now, I'm sure.
So he said, oh, I said, yeah. I said, if you do it fast, it's going to be uncomfortable. And I didn't want you to be uncomfortable. He said, okay, thank you.
Right.
Well, again, it's a matter of what are you learning? And we learned a lot of things. And, when we took the course, we practiced on each other. That was how we, learned to do it. But then, they told us when you go back to the office, ask your dentist if you can do some of the injections. And what we used to do sometimes, especially if the patient was seeing the dentist after us, if we knew what he was doing, we would give the injection before we turned them over to the dentist, so that by the time the dentist was ready to start, the anesthetic had already taken.
Mm-hmm.
So it saved time for them. So, it's not necessarily a bad thing that your hygienist knows how to give injections. And we practiced, you'll love this, Carla, we practiced on oranges.
Oh, yeah?
We had oranges in our rooms. We used to, inject the oranges.
Yeah, we used to do that when we used to teach patients how to do hormone injections.
Yeah.
And then we realized that we could do saline and a rubber sponge, and was just as good. So
yeah, but it's just a matter of, we, as I said, initially we practiced on each other, but we also practiced on oranges. And, it's not that hard to give an injection if you know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so, we learned. And I was glad. I learned in the States because that's where I was, and it was down there before it actually came up here. But when it came up here, they still wanted me to take a course. So I did. And the instructor said to me, how come you know how to do this? I said, because I learned in Oregon. And I said, I've already been doing it for 2 years. He went, oh.
Whoa. Didn't give you a job? You want to help teach it?
He said to me, he said, do you want to help some of the other people? I said, sure, I can do that.
Yeah. I'm only doing it so I can get a license to do it in Canada.
Yeah, exactly. So it was just, but again, it's teamwork. You help other people. What's wrong with that? People are going to thank you. They'll be appreciative. And, it's a matter of what are we doing? And I think the most important thing here, Chris, in terms of the call to action, I think that we need to pay attention to the fact that part of a good culture is the support piece. And that piece is offering your people training so they can be really good at what they do, so that it enhances the skills that they have and maybe teaches them new ones and gives them an opportunity, to expand some of their duties. Because, it's boring if you always have to do exactly the same thing over and over and over again. But if you can learn to do something new, something a little bit different, then it, I get to do something new. Yeah. It's more engaging. It's more interesting. But you can only do that if you give them the opportunity to learn something new. And that's why, as I said, in the dental office, we did a lot of cross training so that people could do different things, even if it wasn't their regular job. But if somebody needed a hand and they knew how to do it, so they're good. And I think it's the same in any job. The more we know how to help each other, and, just because it's not my job doesn't mean that I can't help.
Ooh, I hate that expression. I hate that expression.
It's not my job. Yeah, I know. I agree with you, Carla.
Well,
But
I'd piggyback on what you're saying and be on the lookout for workshops or something that may not give you CEU credits, but it would certainly, maybe if it's something that can help an organization out, what's the worst they can say is no. Say, hey, I found this great course. I think it would be great for the organization. I'd like to take it, or maybe there's someone else that you could take it with and have a fun time doing it. And if you have to do continuing education for your profession, keep up with it during your licensure cycle and wait till the better end, because things are always changing and you never know if you might find something that appeals to you that could be beneficial for you in your job or for your organization.
Absolutely.
Exactly. And so my call to action is basically similar to both Sandy and Carla, but invest in yourself. And for employers, invest in your people. It's so important, obviously, for individuals to invest in themselves, to make themselves, happy and better and all around. Just, it's just better all around. And then for employers, obviously, the investment in people is not just the training aspect of it, even though that is a very important aspect, but getting to know your people and just investing in who they are and invest in their continuing education, because it's beneficial to them, and it's to be the best that they can be. And then it just trickles down to the organization. It makes the organization much better.
Absolutely.
And my call to action, everyone, is just this. I just put it up on the screen and I will say it again. Doing the right thing is the right thing to do because you can't go wrong with right. From
Right.
a support standpoint, we could always be doing the right thing for the right reasons and with the right people.
Yeah.
Because if we start doing that, not only do they feel more valued and they feel more engaged, but we also in turn get that same benefit too as well. So it's not only a trickle down effect; it's an exponential effect throughout the organization. You
Mhm.
can literally turn everyone into your own advocate for your own organization to such a degree. The very same community that we live in is the very same community that we work in. So if we work from both angles of that, one will flow right into the other. And I truly believe that. So that would be my call to action is do the right thing because it is the right thing to do because you can't go wrong with right.
Chris, you're going to send us the links for tomorrow and Thursday, right?
Yes, ma'am, I will.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I
All
appreciate
right.
it.
All righty. So
Nice to
thank
see
you
you.
everyone for watching today, for sharing care with Sandy. If you want to reach out to one of us, please let us know. We would love to have that great and engaging conversation with you. And we will see you tomorrow for Conversation for Humanity starting at 2:45 Eastern Daylight Time. And if you like I said, want to reach out to us, let us know. We will have that great and engaging conversation with. And also, if your organization needs help, let us know. We would like to be able to have that conversation with you guys too as well. All right. So,
Okay.
ladies, thank you so much. Have a
Thank
great
you.
day. Make it your
Have a
day,
great night,
and we'll see
everyone.
you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.
Have a good evening, everybody. Bye.
Bye-bye.